Thank you. Could we have someone to speak for those opposed, please? And you might tell us about your petitions and stuff.
Can I come up a little bit?
Sure, come on up. It won't come against your time either. That's true. Just tell us your name and where you're from.
My name is Tom Clark. I'm a 30-year resident of the town of Franklin. Grew up here in Black River Falls. Some of you may remember me. At any rate, I'm here tonight, I guess, to describe the opposition's point. As the chairman alluded to initially, this has been before our town board a number of times. I think it's 3 or 4 times now. They voted it down twice, and recently they didn't vote to support it or deny it. They basically said, well, we don't object. And then it went up to zoning. Zoning had already voted it down. It passed through the zoning committee a second time. Then there was an action to get reconsideration, and that was defeated in zoning. Now on that day, I think it was November 15th, after that happened, Mr. Sofer and his business partners there reapplied for a petition. Actually, before the first one, 2012-47, was ever before the board. They basically went into the process again to get a reconsideration that had just been denied by the zoning committee. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work, if they're going to be able to reapply indefinitely at whatever interval or what. That seems to be where we're going. Second point I have is the majority of our residents oppose this. We did a petition in September. We had 250 signatures. Now that's people that own property and or live there. Of that 250, I think we had about 180 who actually live in the town. Now our town only has 450 residents. Probably 320 of those are of voting age. So we've got greater than 50% on our petition. I think many of you have seen that. But most of the people don't want it. I think that's an important point. Additional point, this proposal contradicts our comprehensive plan, which was adopted under the county zoning ordinance. And our plan talks about protecting and improving the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of the town. And this isn't non-resident developers, this is residents. Second, preserve and enhance the quality of life for residents. And third, to protect and reinforce the community character and agricultural, I emphasize that word, agricultural traditions of our town. This is industrial, quite different. And one of the reasons I think the town board was very reluctant the other day to support this is the safety issue. This site comes out on a very steep section of County Highway N. I don't know if many of you have been out there. It's rural, it's steep, the roads are crooked, there are no shoulders. It's fully 10 miles from the nearest railroad. That means huge amounts of trucking. Mr. Sofer and his associates have estimated 10 trucks an hour, that's one way, and 10 coming back. So we're talking about 20 trucks an hour, dawn to dusk, every 3 minutes. I don't know about the highway commissioner here, what he thinks of that on these roads, but they're pretty bad already. I have no idea what's going to happen if they get this kind of use. Silica dust, well, I guess that's, the jury's out. We're going to generate dust. How dangerous is it? I don't know. I don't think anyone does, either pro or con, so that's an issue. Of course, property values will be affected. That's on the State Towns Association site, a study. I think it's Vericheck, 30% nearby, and then just tapering off as you move away. There's not much doubt about that one, I don't think. I guess finally, there really isn't an adequate monitoring system in place in our township. The town did adopt a licensing ordinance, but there's really no way to enforce that ordinance at the town level. We have no expertise to do this. I know it may fall to the county to do it under your zoning plan, but I'm sure your staff is going to be heavily stressed as well as more mines are approved. So that is kind of an issue. And of course the DNR is not really going to be involved in this. Neither is the EPA, although someone said, well, if you have a problem, call the EPA. Have you ever tried that? You're going to be on hold for a while. And then lastly, I guess the mine harms more people than it helps, I think. I'm all for property rights, do what you want with your land. I think that's important, and we all believe in that. But I think when what you do affects the people around you, then that makes a difference, and that's why we have zoning. to protect the many from the few. And that, I think, is what I'm asking you to do here. Certainly, I'm all for property rights, but not in this case. And I would say that, as a famous Supreme Court justice once observed, there's a big difference between doing what you have the right to do and doing what's right. And I think that's important to remember in this case. So I know jobs are important, and I think there will be some jobs created. How long they last, anybody's guess. You know, sand, frac sand, is susceptible to markets, global markets. Demand goes up and down, price goes up and down. I think we've got layoffs now in the community because the demand is down. So to say we're going to have jobs indefinitely, probably not a good thing. So, in conclusion, respectfully, ask you to consider these things when you make your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now do we have anyone here speaking for the approval of the frac sand?
I will.
Okay.
My name is Claudia Singleton. My brother and sister and I own land in the town of Franklin. My parents have lived in the town of Franklin for over 60 years and farmed in that community for over 40 years. My mom and dad still live there, and my brother and his wife still live there also. I'm just a firm believer in landowners' rights. I believe that, you know, when you pay taxes and you own your own land, I believe that you should have a reasonable expectation to develop the resources that you have on that land. When I look in Jackson County, I look at two excellent examples that we have right here in Jackson County. One is Badger Mining that's been in existence for almost 29 years. I haven't heard of any environmental or health crisis as a result of that. I know that Atlas Resin Propents, which is owned by Badger Mining, was a 2010 winner of Wisconsin Manufacturer of the Year award. Badger Mining has given many wonderful jobs to this community, and I don't know where we'd be without it, frankly. The other example I look at is Lake Boise. What an excellent example of a reclamation plan, and to see how land can be reclaimed. I know that there's been a study done on the economic impact just from 50 jobs that are in the town of Springfield. And I think everyone here is aware of the trickle-down effect that, you know, additional jobs can make to this community. The town of Franklin was once, I know when I was growing up, there was primarily a dairy farming community, and it isn't anymore. I think there's very few, probably less than a handful of dairy farms left in the town of Franklin. At the time I was growing up, everybody either owned a dairy farm or they worked on a dairy farm. So there's, you know, that industry is gone, and, you know, I see this as a chance to replace that. Coulee Frac Sand Company has a reclamation plan in place. It's a sound plan. The other thing I'd like to say is that as of this morning, I received 14 other petitioners that had signed. 7 of those were people that had previously signed against. I think that as time goes by, people are gathering more information and becoming more aware of Coulee Frac's plan, and you're getting less people objecting to it. The other thing I truly, truly believe is that I think as citizens that you have to look at, you know, we need to stop looking to the government to fix the economy, and I think we have to start looking within ourselves to fix the economy in this country, and I see this as an excellent way to do that, and I think it would be a travesty to let it pass up. And I just hope that the board looks at the whole picture and makes an informed decision on what they've heard. Thank you. And we do have 97 signatures also.
Okay, 97.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Claudia. Next is the town chair here. Jeff?
My name is Jeff Blanchard. I'm the chairman for the town of Franklin. This issue, I realize, has come before the board 3 times, but just so everybody understands, the first time we had the vote and it was 3-0 was for the reasons of the moratorium that was in place to get our ordinances in place. At that time, our ordinances were not in place. That's why we voted 3-0, and that was to protect the township from the mine coming in at that time. So we had our ordinances in place to protect our area. That's what we're there for. The second vote was 3-2, 2 against, and myself, I voted for it. We had the petitions, I understand that, but you also have to look at all the facts that come about, even though you have the petitions. You have to take everything. As chairman of a township, you have to look at the full scope, and as I've had people say to me that I don't represent the majority, well, I represent everybody, majority and the minority. The second vote was 3-2. There was an intimidation part. I'm not going to stand here and say that the intimidation part led an individual to go and change his vote. I won't say that. He needs to be here to go and answer for his own. This mine has gone and separated this township terribly. There are neighbors that won't talk to neighbors. There's people that used to come down to the recycling and they won't come down there anymore because of the intimidation. I've got one board member, he's afraid to go out and get his own mail. I've had phone calls to my house. I'm a little thicker skinned. If that's what you gotta do to prove your point, well, I'm sorry for you. This letter here is to offer you my perspective as Town of Franklin Chairman to the request of Coulee Frac to rezone the property located at County End in the Town of Franklin. The request for rezoning has created quite a stir in our little township. I believe this comes from a creative perception of the industry and a missed opportunity to educate all. I have taken inquiries with opinions on both sides of the rezoning request and feel the community is equally split. That being said, our community has been preparing for non-metallic mining for the past year by drafting ordinances for the protection and the welfare of our community. These ordinances have been completed and were adopted at the October town meeting. Land use questions will continue with each rezoning request we receive. As a board, we feel that all landowners want to have a voice in the property that they own. There are more than 4,700 acres of developable land in the town, and one could assume this parcel would more than meet the demand for a new industrial development, since this parcel is no longer in use as agricultural, which stands clear-cut of all mercantile belongings. I would expect our town to see improvements to the land's beauty with the reclamation of the land associated with the mining operation. I voted yes for the rezoning of this parcel because I feel our town has been proactive in creating a comprehensive land use plan and has ordinances that give the town residents a voice on their land use. Our non-metallic mining ordinances and other regulatory bodies offer the same protection. We got a little sidelined at our meeting the other night. People were focused on the conditional use permit. Folks, we're not here to talk about the conditional use permit. This is strictly a zoning petition. This is to change the position of the land in the zoning. The conditional use has afforded us to come with the board and discuss our ordinances that the Planning Commission has gone and proposed and accepted. I've been told, read our ordinances into whatever the county has at the time of the conditional use permit. Thank you. Any questions?
Who is going to enforce your ordinances?
Well, we have a legal department, Mr. Millis, and I guess whatever avenues we have to go and entertain, that's what we'll do. I'm not going to stand here and say that we have a scientist on board or we have an engineer on board. No, ma'am, we don't have that. Can we find some? Yes, ma'am. Davey Engineering, which I dealt with through the municipality that I worked for 35 years, is a very cooperative company, very expertise in their field. If we have to get somebody, I would call Davey Engineering, and I'm sure that they would be very thorough.
Okay. Is there another? Could we hold?
I just want to ask them a question. Have you ever proposed a referendum to your people on a vote, say in April?
It's been brought up in discussion, but no, sir, we haven't.
Don't you think that would be up to the people to have a vote? And that way you would find out the majority of the people where they stand, for sure?
Yes, sir.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves because we didn't discuss, because we had petitions on both sides. So.
Yes, sir.
Do you have another town supervisor here that would like to speak?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. Because I called, it was kind of late, and I called and told them they had the opportunity if they chose to get here. It was late morning before I could get hold. So, any questions at all? If you, I won't go. Okay, thank you, Jeff.